He lost his job after helping a sick elderly man. Now he has no money, no home, and no hope. But what if that single act of kindness changes his life forever? What happens next? Stay with me as we see how this story unfolds. The sun had just risen over the busy city of Calabar. Cars were moving in and out of a large bank building. Staff walked inside carrying files in their hands. Security guards stood at the gate, observing everything. A black car slowly entered the parking area and stopped. Ubong stepped out from the driver's seat and quickly opened the back door. His boss, the branch manager, stepped out without even looking at him. "Make sure you don't leave this place," she said, adjusting her handbag. "Yes, Ma," Ubong replied. She walked into the building without saying another word. Ubong reached into the car, picked up a small towel, and gently closed the door. He began cleaning the windscreen, just like he always did. Whenever he wasn't driving, he made sure the car looked spotless. As he wiped the glass, his eyes drifted to the side. Not far from the parking area, an elderly man stood alone in a quiet corner of the compound. The man was holding his chest and looked unstable. Ubong stopped wiping and looked again carefully. The man bent slightly. Seeing this, Ubong quickly dropped the towel on the bonnet and rushed toward him, worried something was wrong. "Sir, are you all right?" he asked. The elderly man could not respond. His hand was pressed tightly against his chest, and his face showed severe pain. "Sir," Ubong said again as he got closer, "can you hear me?" The man opened his mouth, but no words came out, only a painful groan. Ubong felt a cold fear rise in his chest. He suspected the man might be having a heart attack. "Sir, please stay with me," he said urgently. He looked around, but no one was coming and no one seemed to notice. For a moment, his thoughts went to the car. "Should I use my boss's car?" he wondered. Then he quickly shook his head. "No, that could get me into trouble. I'll get a taxi," he thought. But he paused again. His boss had warned him not to leave his post. He looked at the elderly man struggling to breathe. "This is an emergency," he whispered. "I can't just watch him die." Without wasting more time, Ubong ran outside the gate, waving his hand. "Taxi! Taxi!" A taxi slowed down near the gate. "Please, there's an emergency," Ubong said. "What is the problem?" the driver asked. Ubong quickly pointed at the elderly man. "That man is not well. I need to take him to the hospital right now." "Okay, quick," the driver said, stepping out to help. "Hold him properly," he shouted as they hurried. Ubong carefully supported the man, and together they managed to place him in the back seat. Ubong got in with him. "Please drive fast," Ubong said. The taxi merged into the busy road. Ubong no longer thought about his boss or his job. When they reached the hospital, Ubong jumped out and shouted, "Nurse, please help." 2 nurses rushed out with a stretcher. They placed the elderly man on it and quickly took him inside. Ubong followed for a few steps before stopping in the corridor. The man was wheeled into a room while doctors rushed in after him. Ubong stood there for a moment, unsure of what to do next. Then he sat down to wait for updates. Minutes later, one of the doctors came out briefly. Ubong quickly stood up. "Doctor, how is he now?" he asked anxiously. The doctor paused for a moment. "He is stable now. He had a heart attack, but he is responding well to treatment." Ubong exhaled deeply. "Thank God," he said. He looked at his wristwatch. Time had already passed. "I need to get back to work," he said to himself. "I will come back after work to check on him," he told the doctor. The doctor nodded. "That's fine." Back at the bank, the manager stepped out of her office to get breakfast. She walked toward the parking area and suddenly stopped. The car was there, but the driver was missing. Her expression tightened. She looked around carefully, but there was no sign of him. She walked straight to the security post at the gate. "Where is my driver?" she asked firmly. The security guards hesitated. One of them finally spoke. "Ma, we saw him earlier. He carried an elderly man into a taxi and left the compound in a hurry." Her expression changed immediately. "Without my permission?" she asked sharply. Her anger rose. "I told him not to leave his duty post, and he disobeyed me," she said angrily. About 1 hour later, Ubong walked back into the bank premises. His shirt was slightly damp with sweat. The security guard at the gate looked at him. "Madam has been looking for you," he said. Ubong paused. "I hope she understands it was an emergency," he thought nervously as he walked toward her office. He knocked. "Come in." Ubong opened the door. "Ma," he began. "Where are you coming from?" she asked immediately, not letting him finish. Her eyes were fixed on him. Ubong lowered his head. "Ma, an elderly man came into the bank premises this morning. He suddenly collapsed. He had a heart attack. I had to rush him to the— Is that your job?" she interrupted. Ubong stopped. "Ma, if I did not help him, he could have died," he said. "I asked you a question," she said firmly. "Is that part of your job?" "No, Ma." "Then why did you leave your duty post?" she asked. Ubong tried again. "Ma, there was no one else. I could not just stand and watch." "I don't pay you to disobey me," she said coldly. "I pay you to do your job." Ubong stood in front of her, unsure of what to say next. "Your services are no longer required here. You are fired. Drop the car keys and leave this place immediately." The word struck Ubong like a heavy blow. "Ma, please," he said quickly. "I need this job. I was only trying to save a life." She pressed the intercom button. "Security," she said. "Come and take this young man out of my office." "Ma, please," Ubong pleaded. 2 security officers entered the office. "Escort him out right now," she ordered, pointing toward the door. Ubong stood still for a moment. Then, slowly, he turned and walked out with the security officers beside him. A few minutes later, he sat on a low curb outside the bank. Cars passed by. People walked past. No one stopped. He had worked hard to get that job, and just like that, it was gone. He let out a long breath. But deep inside, one thought remained: at least the man was saved. After a while, Ubong stood up and started walking home. The road felt longer than usual. As he walked, memories came back to him: long nights in school, studying by lantern light. He had studied business administration and graduated with good results. After school, he had hoped life would improve. But no job came. For months, he searched without success until this driving job appeared. He took it because he had no choice. Now even that job was gone. As he entered his compound, his steps slowed. His landlord was standing in front of the house, holding a paper. "Ubong," the landlord called. Ubong walked closer. "Good afternoon, sir," he replied. The landlord handed him the paper. "You have 2 weeks," he said firmly. "Pay my rent or leave this house." He turned and walked away. Ubong said nothing. He simply nodded and went inside. His room was small and silent. He sat on the edge of his old bed and stared at the wall, trying to understand how everything had changed in just one day: his job, his home, everything. He lay back on the bed. His thoughts returned to the elderly man. "I will go and check on him tomorrow," he said quietly to himself. Then his mind shifted to the rent. He was not sure if he would receive any severance pay after losing his job, so he began thinking of other ways to raise the money he had been saving. The next morning, Ubong woke up early. He had not slept well. His mind kept replaying everything that happened the previous day. Still, he got up, got ready, and left his room. Before anything else, he had one plan: check on the elderly man at the hospital, then start looking for another job. He arrived at the hospital and asked for the ward where the man had been admitted. A nurse pointed him in the right direction. "Ward 6, she said. Ubong thanked her and walked down the corridor. When he reached the door, he paused for a moment, then gently pushed it open. The elderly man was awake. He was still lying on the hospital bed when the elderly man turned his gaze toward him. Ubong stepped closer and pulled a chair beside the bed. "Good morning, sir. I was the one who brought you here yesterday," Ubong said. The man nodded slowly. "I remember," he replied. "Even though I was not fully conscious, your face stayed in my mind." He reached out and held Ubong's hand. "Thank you. If not for you, I might not be alive today." Ubong lowered his head slightly. "It was nothing, sir. I only did what anyone should do." The man gave a weak smile. "My name is Mr. Debo," he said. "I am Ubong," he replied. Mr. Debo shifted slightly on the bed. "My daughter really wanted to meet you and thank you personally," he said. "But something urgent came up, so she had to leave. When she returns, I would like you to meet her so she can appreciate what you did for me." Ubong nodded. "That is fine, sir. I may come again tomorrow. I am just glad you are getting better." He stayed for a while, but his expression remained troubled. Mr. Debo studied him closely. "You look worried. Is something wrong?" he asked. Ubong hesitated, then sighed. "Sir, yesterday was very difficult for me," he said. "After I brought you here, I lost my job. When I returned home, my landlord also served me a quit notice. I was trying to save for my rent, but now I have nothing left. Still, I will manage." The room became quiet. Mr. Debo looked at him with concern. "That is not right," he said. "I am sorry that helping me caused you so many problems. If my driver had not taken the car for service, you would not have had to leave your post. I truly regret this." He paused. "But remember, life often opens new doors when others close. Do not lose hope." Ubong gave a faint smile. "I understand, sir." He stood up slowly. "Please take care of yourself. I will check on you again tomorrow." Mr. Debo nodded. "Go, and stay strong." Ubong left the hospital with a heavy mind. That day, he went from place to place looking for work: shops, offices, small companies. Everywhere he went, the response was the same: either "we will call you back" or "there is no vacancy." By evening, he was exhausted from walking all day. He sat by the roadside for a while, watching people pass. Then he got up and returned home. That night, he cooked a small meal and ate in silence. No conversation, no planning, just quiet. Afterward, he slept. The next morning, Ubong returned to the hospital. When he opened the door to Mr. Debo's room, he stopped. A woman was standing beside the bed. She appeared calm and well-dressed. Ubong greeted Mr. Debo. Mr. Debo smiled when he saw him. "Ubong, how are you?" he said. "This is my daughter, Bola." Then he turned to her. "This is the young man who brought me to the hospital." Bola looked at Ubong, and their eyes met briefly in silence. Then she stepped forward. "My name is Bola," she said, offering her hand. "I am Ubong," he replied, shaking her hand. She looked at him calmly. "Thank you for saving my father." "You are welcome, Ma," Ubong replied respectfully. At that moment, Ubong's phone rang. He stepped aside quickly and answered. A voice came through. "Good morning. We have reviewed your application. We would like you to come for a short interview today. Ubong paused for a moment. His expression changed. Yes, yes, I will come, he said quickly. He ended the call and turned back. I am sorry, he said. I have an urgent interview. I need to leave immediately. Mr. Debo smiled. Go. Maybe this is your opportunity. Ubong nodded and left quickly. Not long after he left, a doctor entered the ward. Mr. Debo, the doctor said, you are now stable. You can be discharged tomorrow. We will continue follow-up checks. His daughter smiled with relief. Ubong quickly went home and changed into his only clean formal outfit. He looked at himself in the mirror for a moment, took a deep breath, and left. At the interview, he answered every question carefully and spoke clearly. The interviewers were impressed with his manner, but they informed him that the position required at least 3 years of experience, which his CV did not show. The interview ended, and Ubong left. The next morning at the hospital, Mr. Debo had been discharged and was preparing to leave. He looked much healthier now, and Bola was with him. Mr. Debo looked around the ward. Let us wait a little, he said. Ubong should come. I want to thank him before I leave. Bola agreed. They waited. After more than 20 minutes, Ubong did not appear. Mr. Debo looked toward the door again, but there was still no sign of him. He sighed softly. It seems we will not see him, he said. Bola supported him as they left. Maybe he is busy, she said. Later that day, they arrived at their mansion. The house was large and quiet. Mr. Debo sat down slowly, deep in thought. I wanted his contact, he said. That young man saved my life. I cannot just forget him. Bola sat beside him. We can still find him, father. Mr. Debo shook his head. No contact, no details, only his name. Then he paused. Wait, he said. He mentioned he worked for the manager of the bank I visited that morning. Bola looked up. That is true. Mr. Debo stood slightly. Then I will go to that bank once the doctor allows me more physical activity, he said. For now, I need rest. That bank must have his information. Meanwhile, Ubong had already started working at a local car wash. That afternoon, cars kept arriving one after another. Ubong washed them continuously without stopping. He did not even think about rest. He needed money. His rent was still due, and it weighed heavily on him. So he kept working. That morning, he had not gone to the hospital to check on Mr. Debo. He planned to go later in the evening instead. By evening, Ubong finished work earlier than usual. He washed his hands and left the car wash, then went straight to the hospital. When he arrived, he walked quickly to the ward. But the nurse informed him that the patient had been discharged that morning. Discharged? Ubong asked. Yes, he left with his daughter, she replied. Ubong stood still for a moment, saying nothing. Then he quietly turned and left the hospital. That night, he returned home with peace of mind. At least the man was fine. That was what mattered most to him. For the next few days, Ubong's life remained unchanged. He woke up early, went to the car wash, worked all day, returned home exhausted, and slept. The same routine continued, no calls, no job updates, no progress. 2 weeks later, Mr. Debo was sitting in his car. Take me to the bank, he instructed his driver. Yes, sir, the driver replied. They drove off and soon arrived at the same bank where Ubong had once worked. As soon as Mr. Debo stepped into the bank, the staff quickly moved to greet him. Good morning, sir. Welcome, sir, they said respectfully. He was one of their major clients, and they treated him with great respect. He was guided into the branch manager's office. Inside, the branch manager immediately stood up. Mr. Debo, welcome, sir, she said with a polite smile. He nodded calmly. Thank you. He sat down, and she took her seat opposite him. Sir, what brings you here today? She asked. Mr. Debo did not waste time. I am looking for information about one of your former staff, he said. The manager paused slightly. Former staff? Yes. His name is Ubong. The room fell silent for a moment. The manager's expression changed slightly. Mr. Debo continued, that young man saved my life the last time I was here, and I want to thank him again. The manager's hands tightened slightly on the table. Slowly, she opened a file drawer, her eyes lowering for a moment. She remembered everything, the day she dismissed him, the day he left. Oh my God, so this is the man who rushed him to the hospital, she thought. I hope what I did that day does not affect our relationship with Mr. Debo. Then she found Ubong's file. She wrote down his phone number and address. Here it is, sir, she said quietly. Mr. Debo took the paper. Thank you. Then he stood up and left the bank. That same day, on the other side of the city, something else was happening. It was also the deadline day the landlord had given Ubong for his rent. The landlord had arrived, and he was not alone. 2 strong men stood with him. Pack everything out, the landlord ordered loudly. Ubong rushed forward. Sir, please give me more time, he pleaded. I will pay soon. The landlord shook his head. You had 2 weeks. Today is the last day. The men immediately began carrying his belongings out. Ubong stood helplessly, begging as his few possessions were removed, his mattress, suitcase, and clothes. Neighbors watched in silence. After everything was thrown outside, the landlord locked the door and left. Ubong sat on the ground, unsure of what to do next. About an hour later, he took out his phone and called his friend. Hello, please. I need help, he said. What happened? His friend asked. I've been thrown out of my house, Ubong replied. I have nowhere to stay right now. There was a brief silence on the line. Then his friend said, Don't worry. Come stay with me for now. Ubong exhaled softly. Thank you, he said. That night, he packed his important belongings, placed them in a suitcase, and left. When he arrived, he stood outside his friend's small apartment with his bag beside him. His friend opened the door and saw him. For a moment, he looked at Ubong with concern. I'm really sorry about what happened, his friend said. But don't worry. You can stay here until you get back on your feet. Thank you, Ubong said. His friend stepped aside. Come in, he added. We will manage. Ubong walked into the small one-room apartment. It was cramped, but at least it offered a place to rest for now. The next morning, Mr. Debo kept calling Ubong's phone repeatedly, but the calls did not connect. He tried again the following day, and then the day after that, but the result was the same, no response. After several days of unsuccessful attempts, he opened a drawer in his room and took out the paper containing Ubong's address. He sat quietly for a moment, staring at it and thinking deeply. Then he made his decision. I will go there myself, he said. He called his driver. Prepare the car. We are going out. The driver followed the instruction immediately. A few minutes later, Mr. Debo left the house and entered the car. He gave the driver the address. When they arrived, the place was not what he expected. The building looked old and almost abandoned. A few neighbors stood around outside. Mr. Debo stepped out and asked calmly, Good morning. I am looking for a young man named Ubong. Am I at the right place? One of the neighbors replied, He used to live here, but the landlord evicted him yesterday. Mr. Debo frowned slightly. Evicted? He asked. Yes, another neighbor confirmed. Does anyone know where he went? Mr. Debo asked. They all shook their heads. No one knew his new location. He returned to the car in silence. As they drove away, he looked out of the window. I just hope that young man is all right wherever he is, he said quietly. Meanwhile, Ubong had stopped working at the car wash. The job had no proper structure, and the owner often failed to pay workers as agreed. So he kept moving from place to place, searching for work. Every morning, he left his friend's apartment early, going around submitting his CV. He visited shops, offices, and small businesses. The answers were always the same. We are not hiring. We will contact you when there is a vacancy. Each day felt heavier than the last, but he refused to give up. At the same time, in another part of the city, Mr. Debo sat with his daughter, Bola. He explained everything to her, how he had tried to find Ubong, and how he discovered that Ubong had been evicted just a day earlier, with no one knowing where he had gone. Bola listened carefully. If it is meant to be, we will meet him again, she said. If not, maybe that is just his fate. I think you are right, Mr. Debo replied. 1 month later, Mr. Debo and Bola were discussing a new business plan. Their company was opening a new branch in another part of the city, and Bola was in charge of it. I have already listed job openings for the new branch, she said. We will begin interviews soon. Mr. Debo looked at her. Good. Just make sure you keep an eye on the recruitment team. Of course, Dad. I've got it as always, Bola replied with a smile. They both laughed lightly. I will go there tomorrow to check everything myself, Mr. Debo added. On the other side of the city, Ubong's friend had just finished his night shift as a security guard. On his way home, he noticed a large notice board outside a new company building. Job vacancies, drivers, cleaners, office assistants needed. He stopped and stared at it for a moment. Then he smiled slightly. When he reached home, he found Ubong sitting quietly, deep in thought. Months had passed, and he still had not found a job. Ubong, his friend said, I saw something today. A new company is hiring many positions. Ubong looked up quickly. Really? Yes. You should try your luck tomorrow. Without hesitation, Ubong replied, I will go. That night, he prepared his documents carefully. Early the next morning, he took his file and left. When he arrived, the building was already busy. Inside, people sat along the hallway, each holding their documents. The atmosphere was calm but tense, filled with quiet expectation as candidates waited for their turn. Ubong walked in slowly, found an empty seat, and sat down. He held his file tightly on his lap and waited. Time moved slowly. Then suddenly, a car stopped at the entrance. A well-dressed woman stepped out. Everyone turned to look as she walked inside with confidence. The staff immediately greeted her with respect. Good morning, Ma. But Ubong suddenly froze. He looked at her face carefully. Something about her seemed familiar. He tried to recall where he had seen her before. Then their eyes met. The woman also stopped. She stared at him for a moment, saying nothing. Then she walked straight toward him. Wait, she said. Are you Ubong? Ubong blinked. Yes, he replied. He kept looking at her, still trying to process the fact that the person in front of him was Bola, the daughter of the elderly man he had helped earlier. I went to the hospital that evening, he said. But I was told your father had already been discharged. I was actually relieved that he had fully recovered. Bola's expression softened. My father insisted we wait for you that morning, she explained. He wanted to get your contact details. But when you didn't show up by midday, we had to leave. Ubong exhaled slowly. I was busy, he replied. That's why I couldn't come in the morning. My father has been looking for you, Bola continued. He even went to your house and was told you were evicted just a day before he arrived. Where have you been? Ubong looked surprised by the information. Then he calmly explained everything, how he lost his job, how he was evicted, and how he ended up staying with a friend. Bola listened carefully without interrupting. After a pause, Ubong asked, "Are you here for the interview too?" "No," she said calmly. "I am the CEO of this company." Ubong's eyes widened immediately. He stepped back slightly. You are the CEO?" "Yes," she confirmed. Then she looked at the file in his hand. "What position are you applying for?" she asked. "Driver," Ubong replied quietly. She paused for a moment. "You sound educated. Did you attend university?" she asked, studying him closely. "Yes, I did," Ubong replied. "Then why are you applying for a driving job?" she asked. Ubong lowered his gaze slightly. "I haven't been able to find work in my field. I don't mind any available job. A man has to survive," he said. She thought for a moment. "Come with me. Let me see your file," she said. Inside her office, she reviewed his documents. A look of surprise appeared on her face. "Wait, you graduated with a second-class upper?" she asked. "Yes," Ubong replied softly. She leaned back in her chair and studied him more carefully. "All right," she said. "I will reserve a position for you." Ubong froze for a moment, unable to respond. Then he finally spoke, almost in disbelief. "Oh my goodness, someone wake me up. Is this really happening?" Bola smiled slightly. "You deserve it. My father would love to see you again, but I am a bit busy today." "How about tomorrow?" she said. Ubong quickly nodded. "Yes, I will come." She handed him her phone. "Give me your active number." He entered it, and she saved it. Later, a car stopped in front of a large building. They both stepped out and walked inside. Inside the house, Ubong saw Mr. Debo standing in the living room. The moment their eyes met, Mr. Debo walked quickly and embraced him. "I have been looking for you," he said. "I am sorry. Bola told me what happened. I am truly sorry for everything you went through." Then he smiled warmly. "Please, sit. The maid is preparing the breakfast table," he said, gesturing toward the dining area. Ubong sat down at the dining table, which was already set. Mr. Debo sat opposite him, while Bola sat beside her father. For a moment, there was calm silence as they settled. Then Mr. Debo spoke. "I understand you do not currently have a job," he said calmly. "I discussed with my daughter, and we have decided to offer you a good position in our company based on your qualifications." Ubong sat still, completely stunned. He looked down, then up again, struggling to believe what he was hearing. His voice almost failed him. "Thank you so much, sir. May God bless you. I don't even know what to say." Mr. Debo and Bola smiled. "You deserve it," Mr. Debo said. "You are a good man, and we are glad to help you." They also informed him that the position would come with an apartment and a car. Weeks later, Ubong had already started working at the company headquarters, the same place where Bola worked. His life was slowly improving. He had also spoken to Mr. Debo about his friend, the one who gave him shelter. After reviewing his details and qualifications, the company also offered the friend a job. He was posted to the new branch in another part of the city. Ubong was genuinely happy that his friend was no longer struggling. At work, Ubong performed his duties with dedication. He arrived early, stayed focused, and worked diligently. Mr. Debo, the founder of the company, had already handed over leadership to his daughter, Bola, after retirement. He was very proud of Ubong's performance. This story carries a simple but powerful message. Always choose to do the right thing, even when it is difficult or comes at a cost. Kindness can open doors you never expected. Ubong lost his job because he chose to help someone in need. But in the end, that same decision changed his life for the better. Sometimes what looks like a loss today can become your greatest blessing tomorrow. What do you think about Ubong's decision? Would you have done the same in his situation? Share your thoughts in the comments, we would love to read them. Another interesting story is coming soon. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. If you enjoyed this story, please like and share it with your friends. Thank you for watching.